Hello everyone, welcome to Alliance Against Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence at Abuse Survive and Thriving. My name is Abada Trantilawal. I want us to talk about the types of domestic abuse that we have. But first, I want us to make sure that we have an understanding of what domestic abuse is. Yeah, right. Domestic abuse is any pattern of abusive behavior that a partner in a relationship, an existing relationship, or a non-existing relationship, that is, probably the relationship has ended, and a pattern in this relationship that a person uses to gain control and power over the other partner in a relationship, or an existing or a relationship that has ended. The reason why I'm emphasizing is that most of the time we tend to think that domestic abuse only happens in an existing relationship. No, this is not the case. Domestic abuse can also occur in a situation where the relationship has actually ended. Yes, I will explain further as time goes on in this particular video. Now, the type of abuses that we have start from the physical, that is actually so obvious. It's something that we see. We could see bruises on the victim or the survivor. Domestic abuse can be anything from punching to strangulation to tackling, using a weapon like knife, gun, and the victim or survivor sustaining any physical abuse on the body that is visible. Now, this leads us to verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is the type of abuse that actually occur when the perpetrator continue using negative words, manipulative words. Example, gaslighting. Gaslighting is verbal and can also be emotional, because the verbal aspect is when it's being spoken, like you caught your partner with another person cheating on you, and they're like, oh, it's not what you saw, or you read something, you know what you actually saw, but they are telling you it's not. They are playing with your mental health at that time, and that's why we say verbal leads to emotional, and it can also lead to psychological. It can lead to mental breakdown. That's when we talk about victims and survivors suffering psychological abuses that leads to post-traumatic stress disorder. In another video, we'll be talking about the results, the repercussion, the effects of domestic abuse on survivors and victims. Now, I will be talking about the sexual abuse too that we have. The sexual abuse is actually any sexual, like it can be forcing a partner into having sexual intercourse. Yes, it is called abuse. Abuse in domestic relationship, but also it can be called rape in a relationship, because when the sexual activities is not a consent, is not a mutual agreement, it did not happen mutually, it is rape. And this is what we call in domestic abuse, we call it sexual abuse. It can be verbal sexual abuse, whereby the other partner is saying, oh, you stink while we do it, you don't do it right, you can't do it like this. So it's not. Now let's distinguish between those negative words and actually husband and wife talking about their performances and try to help each other to be better. There's nothing bad in talking about it, but there's difference in talking about it positively and negatively. When it's the negative part, putting the other partner down, that is when it becomes sexual abuse. Then we can talk about the digital abuse too. Digital abuse in domestic that we define in domestic abuse regards. In these days, we're talking about the internet. This happened to me personally while I was in Canada, and my ex told me to take some pictures. Of course, I refused. My explanation was that if I take my note pictures and I send it to you on the phone, what if somebody else gets hold of these pictures? What can we do to rectify that? Of course, he did not have an explanation to this, and so he couldn't pressure me further to do it, and I did not. And talking about digital abuse too, it could be through video. You record yourself to your spouse. You don't know what he or she can use it for in future if anything happens between you. And we've heard about couples intentionally leaking out videos just to be able to tarnish the other, their spouse image. Maybe something went down, the relationship is no more going well or good, and oh, I have this, I'm going to use it against you, and it's been done. Also, I would like to talk about the emotional and psychological. I'm putting it together because both of them are interchangeable. In that, when we the perpetrators start using things like being manipulating the other partner, trying to brainwash, or even use gaslighting, isolating the other partner from seeing friends, from seeing family, from going to a particular place that they desire. It is isolation, and this can lead to emotional and psychological abuse of a victim or survivor. One thing we don't realize also that I like to talk about further in another video, because it's a big deal that really is not being recognized, maybe in this side of the world, that talking about Africa. I know that I've read somewhere about it. I don't know where we're going to put it, but when a victim leaves is when the abuse is actually more dangerous, especially when the victim leaves and proceeds to court. And that is when the abuser uses the court system, the legal system, to abuse the victim. Well, what are the red flags that you can look out for? Talking about you recognizing domestic abuse. Talking about you being able to identify what kind of abuse you are going through. Or maybe as a loved one, what kind of abuse is this particular person you know, that is a family member, a friend, or a neighbor going through. And how can you be able to help? How you can help first is to be a good listener. You be a good listener, and you show that you believe in them. Because coming out in the first place is always very difficult for a victim. That's why they make up excuses. They try to cover up for different reasons, either because of shame, because of stigma, because of victim blaming. So when they somehow have the courage and they are able to talk to you, or you recognize the fact that this person is actually going through abuse and they can open up to you, then you believe them. Even if you have some kind of doubt, you don't show it, right there and then. You can keep it to yourself and probably investigate further. Show that you believe in them. Then also help them to plan, to strategize a safe plan of escape. A safe plan of escape as in, okay, how will you be able to survive it? Because recognizing it is one thing, believing them is one thing, then how? When we have victims dying, at the end of, we have a lot of victims that have run out, they ran back. The support system is not out there. But when they have this support and you give it to them the way they want it, there's an interwoven reason here that I want to connect with my explanation here is believing also that they are their own experts. You will hear me talking about this all the time, that on this channel, that try to be with a victim the way they want you to be with them. Don't force them to go back. Don't force them to leave. They are their own experts. They know when the body, the spirit in them is telling them, the intuition is telling them, I have to leave. If I don't leave, this is it. And there are different reasons that makes a victim to stay in a relationship. Everybody's story is different. So you cannot expect that, Mrs. A left a year after the wedding, or left a relationship a year, and you expect Mrs. B to also do the same thing. Mrs. B can survive it 10 years. Mrs. C can live after 30 years. So don't compare situations. And asking a victim why you are still there, survivor where you're still there, is number one put off for victims and survivors. Now, if you're experiencing domestic abuse, any one of the ones that I have listed above, any of the abuses at all, after you recognize it, after you identify it, after you believe it, acceptance is very important. If you are a lover of a victim, of a survivor, a family member, a neighbor, or a friend, please kindly either SMS us, text us, WhatsApp us, or call directly on our hotline number, which is 0902 014 1980. Again, 0902 214 1980. I will also put it at the link below. Be kind enough to leave your comments below at the comment section. If you have any concern, you can also reach us there. We will always address every question or concerns or contributions that come in. If you have contribution for this channel, if you see anything in your environment, kindly come here on this channel or text or WhatsApp, like I said, to our hotline. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much for your kindness, for your support and your prayers all the time. Also, be kind, please kindly subscribe to this channel. Share with your family, friends. Form alliance with Alliance Against Domestic Violence, Alliance Against Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence at Abuse, Survive and Thriving. Thank you so much and God bless you. Love you all.